I'm joined now by Ed Miliband. Isn't it pretty great that the British Prime Minister is first in line with a meeting of the leader of the leader of the free world?
Not with Donald Trump. Look, I think Tim is underestimating what has actually happened this week since he became president. Banning refugees, endorsing torture, defunding the UN, taking on climate change. I mean, where do you even start? It's starting a trade war with Mexico today, lifting sanctions on Russia on Saturday, apparently. This is not normal times.
No, but it's not.
And her speech, and let me just say this, Kirsty, her speech was a perfectly decent speech if it had been normal times. But to align yourself so closely with his project, which is what she did, that, I think, was a mistake.
Right. If Ed Miliband was Prime Minister, one, would you have gone?
Yes.
And two, speaking to senior Republicans, I mean, she very clearly...
I probably wouldn't have been speaking to senior Republicans.
Well,
Look,
yeah,
I think...
but what I mean is, what would your line have been if it's about...
Well, let me put it this way. I prefer Merkel to May in the way this has been handled. Think of what Angela Merkel did the day after the US presidential election. She said, yes, a partnership with America is important, but on the basis of certain norms and values, of human rights, of commitments to equality, of things that are important. And you know why this matters?
But you don't take Tim Stanley's point that this is all, mood music for a particular audience.
I tell you what, words and signals matter. They matter to the impact on Trump, who only respects strength, and they matter to our reputation around the world. I must say, if I can just take issue with one thing in the film and what Tim said, President Obama, I mean, what is it about this sudden denigration of President Obama? I used to watch as leader of the opposition. You know what I used to think? David Cameron has got a fantastically good relationship with President Obama. I was mildly jealous of the relationship that he had with President Obama. Suddenly, President Obama has been cast as his enemy of Britain because...
Hang on. He said, let's be quite clear. During the debate on the EU referendum, Barack Obama said quite clearly there'd be no special treatment. It would be at the back of the queue when it came to a trade deal.
He took a position on Brexit, and you can think that was a bad thing or a good thing. Personally, he was saying we need a strong Europe, and Britain will make Europe stronger. But I think the notion that we had an enemy in the White House and now we have a friend in the White House. And just on this trade deal point, this is really important. People may not realise this. The tariffs that we have with the United States, they're incredibly low already. The thing this is really worries me about this idea of a trade deal is it goes to what they call non-tariff barriers. What does that mean? Regulation. Regulation around healthcare, the environment, employee rights. And they have less regulation than us. So I think this trade deal is a really dangerous Trojan horse for which we seem to be locking ourselves in America in Donald Trump's boot. And I think that is not what I would be doing.
We actually haven't locked ourselves in Donald Trump, but in fact, Theresa May, it was very, I think, quite careful. And I think that's right what Mark said, to differentiate in our conversation tonight. But when it comes to going and lecturing other people, we all have memories. We all have memories of Gordon Brown going to China and expecting we're going to hear great things about liberty and freedom in China. Was that behind closed doors? Because it certainly wasn't in public.
I don't remember his Chinese speech. I thought you were going to mention Tony Blair and George Bush. And that ended pretty badly, didn't it? I mean, there's a lesson there about that. Our alliance with America should be based on our values and the values that we hold in common, not simply on the idea that we want to be at the front of some notional queue.
But the idea that you ideologically agree with every single leader around the world is, of course, nonsense.
Of course.
So therefore, you have to make your priorities. And I wonder what would you have done? Would you go into a list of priorities saying, if you are going to ban Muslims for certain countries, we won't work together. If you're going to consider torture, we won't work together. If you're a climate change denier, we're not going to work together. Really?
I think it's tone, and this is about self-interest. But be very clear about this. It is in our self-interest that we are strong in defending the climate change treaty. It is in our self-interest to defend a two-state solution for Israel and the Palestinian people, which Donald Trump seems to want to overturn. And I'm afraid there were grace notes in Theresa May's speech tonight. She knew she had to mention some of those things, but that wasn't the main thrust of her speech.
Britain voted for Brexit. Donald Trump supports Brexit. Theresa May says we have to well, there's one point of agreement.
Yeah, but I mean, he wants Nigel Farage to be the ambassador. I mean, goodness me. Look, I think a lot hinges on this trade deal. If you think this trade deal is a get-out-of-jail card for any economic problems we might get for Brexit, then maybe you think it's worth us locking ourselves in the boot. I am very, very sceptical. And by the way, let's not forget, he's a protectionist. Protectionists are very sceptical of trade deals, and he's about to impose tariffs on Mexico.
Let me go take you back to the question of torture, even the conversation about torture, which, of course, he then deferred and said it would be dependent on the CIA chief and so forth. Do you think, if you're a Prime Minister, Would you at this moment be allowing British agents to share intelligence with American agents if there was any chance of torture?
No, we can't be complicit in torture. Absolutely not. And look, I think, to be fair, that sounds like the briefing that is coming from Downing Street. But again, we need strong words and signals because our reputation around the world matters. Other foreign leaders are looking at what's unfolding tonight.
Let's just turn away now and talk a bit again about Brexit and Labour. Labour seems to be in disarray again over Brexit. We've had a resignation from the shadow cabinet today. Will there ever be any kind of peace within Labour when there are two very distinct positions on Brexit?
I'm not sure it's about peace. Labour is wrestling with a difficult issue, which is the fact that we represent lots of Remain voters and Leave voters. I think our front bench position, which is we should accept that Brexit is going to happen, but we should hold the government to account
for the
kind of deal.
Whip?
I think it's a perfectly good decision, yeah. But I think we should hold them to account. And let me just say this one point, because people may not have focused on this. The votes and amendments that we have to this Article 50 bill matter. They matter for this reason most of all. What kind of vote do we get at the end? Do we get a vote which is take it or leave it? In other words, fall out of the European Union without a deal? Or do we get a vote that is meaningful? And that is what Keir Starmer and Jeremy Corbyn and others are pushing for. And in my view, they're right to do so.
Miliband, thank you very much.